let's welcome Paulette. We've got a brilliant story, very real tonight. So, yeah, that was just a cricket clap. Come on, let's really welcome Paulette. Oh, yeah. Come on, take a seat. Yeah. Now, in church, we want to get real a bit, don't we? Is that okay? You know, like sometimes church can be very nice, can't it? Well, we want to kind of dig into your real story tonight, Paulette. Thank you so much for being brave enough to share it. Just tell us a little bit of your background, where you're from and so on, and just a little set the scene for us.
Sure. So I was born in France, south of France, so I'm not from Paris. Okay. But I'm originally from DRC, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah. Beautiful people.
Definitely.
Yeah. Best coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've just upset all the Kenyans, Paulette. But anyway.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. So I'll start from where I am right now. So I'm a single parent. I've got 2 children. I was raised between family, foster care, and then a children's home. So that's kind of my upbringing in like moving around. I moved around quite a lot.
Right.
As a child, pretty unsettling, I must say. And yeah, so I lived, when I was with family, I was with my mom. She was a single parent. Didn't get to know my dad until my mom passed away when I was 13 years old. So, you know, coming out from foster care and children's home, our mom managed to kind of take us back out of that system. And a couple of months later, then she passed away when I was 13. And then I had to go live with my aunt. And yes.
So it's not exactly easy or what people would say typical. So we're talking about anger tonight. And so what happened to you?
So I was in nearly 6 years domestic violence relationship. And to the relationship kind of, I would say, broken myself from obviously many things that happened to me. And found myself just living in complete terror for, you know, next to 6 years.
So you were married?
No, I was just
You were just
in partnership.
cohabiting?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And how bad did that get?
It got really bad, so I'll just give I'll try and stay really short because 6 years, you can't really tell.
Okay.
It's a short time. So aside from the first time he put his hands on me, the one I clearly remember is that when I was pregnant, so I was about 6 months pregnant.
Right.
He kneed me in my stomach.
Oh, right.
That's one that I can clearly remember.
And you were pregnant at the time?
Yes, I was clearly pregnant, yes. Yeah. Then there was another incident. There were so many, but I'm trying to kind of pick the main ones. There was one where I found myself running out of the house and hiding in my local corner shop. So I literally, I think adrenaline just had to run because I knew something was going to happen. And I just picked up my daughter and we ran out and we went to the corner shop and they hid us in the basement for some time. The gentleman from the corner shop just had to go outside and check if he was still there. And then when the road was safe, he kind of quickly escorted us to the car.
So Paulette, did you blame yourself? Did you kind of say, oh, I've made him angry? Or how did this cycle go? What was the triggers and all of that?
I mean, there's no... I did blame myself, but coming out of it, I realized that it was just gaslighting because there was no reasoning with who he was. There was no reasoning, so everything was my fault. Everything was down to me. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have said that. I should always agree with him. I should do things the way he wants me to do. Otherwise, I get the consequences of not aligning with what he wants me to do.
So if you didn't do what he asked you to do, you'd take a beating for it?
Yes, it's beating, insults. Kind of, I had to run out of my house, I don't know, countless times, just to be safe.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, I guess lots of people in the room might be asking, why did you stay for 6 years? Why?
Yeah, I guess that's
Or
everybody's.
does everybody ask that?
Yes, I think that's the
Yeah.
first question when people hear 6 years.
We're really sorry. Okay.
No, that's fine because I'm used to that question.
Yeah.
So, first of all, what I realized afterwards is that obviously my background, my story from childhood had kind of led to me making that decision for myself. I didn't grow up with a father figure. I didn't grow up with a role model as to what love is, what it looks like. So when I was in that relationship, first of all, what we need to understand is that domestic violence doesn't start as a punch. In some situations, yes, but it mostly starts with emotional abuse, psychological abuse. Yes. So I was already broken, and then it was easier for him to kind of sell me the dream. And then once I was sold to the dream, I kind of felt like, okay, I have to be there. And then culturally, I was pregnant. I didn't want people to start talking. So I thought, okay, it's better for me to be there and no one kind of saying, oh, because I already had my daughter with someone else. Yeah. So I didn't want people to start talking and say, okay, this one, she's just doing all sorts of nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's lots of things around that.
Yes.
So how did you overcome this relationship? And then I'll ask you about your faith in that as well. Tell us how that worked.
So I feel like a year before kind of voicing myself to him, I had already kind of started the process of letting go and realizing that this is not the place for me. But then the last time he put his hands on me, I think that was clear as day to me because my children they witnessed the abuse. But at that time, I think I kind of had to stick my gun. So he kind of had me on the throat, pinned me to the window. And after he let go of me, my son asked, Daddy, what are you doing that to mommy? And he said, because she's naughty. And then my son just looked, the look on my son's face actually froze me. And I said, this is it. I really can't do this anymore.
Right.
And that was it, yeah.
So seeing that reaction in your children kind of made you determined.
Yes.
How did your faith play out in all of this? Because we were talking earlier, and Paulette was you were kind of a church goer, and then you went to, was it university or college?
Oh, yes.
And somebody invited you to church the first time you were there, and then you made your way to KT. But how did your faith play out in this situation?
So in the family context, my great uncle is a pastor. So we've always kind of been around church and I would say forced to be in church. That's the reality of it. So I didn't really have a relationship with God. And like you said, when I came to London, the first girl I met invited me to church, and the religious spirit in me said, I have to go, otherwise God will strike me with thunder. So I went to church.
It's funny how we think God only uses thunder to strike people down, isn't it? You know, like he often uses love and love bombs. But anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah, so then when I moved to West London, that's when my church contacted KT, and that's when I started attending KT. But throughout the domestic violence, the ongoing kind of situation, I was coming to KT. I was sat all the way at the back there. That was my spot. And I always say this jokingly, but I said during worship, I would cry. And people would look at me and think, oh, the Holy Spirit. But it wasn't. I was in bits. I was in bits. And obviously, God works. For me, I knew that obviously the words were touching me, but mostly I was looking at my situation. I was like, God, how am I going to get out of this? And I would just cry throughout worship and just kind of God reassuring me. But I'm like, I come to church, I'm reassured, but then I go home and I'm living in terror. Yeah. So church, I would say church was my safe place. Work was my safe place. So I had little places where I could be myself and kind of rest. Because I was living in constant terror from the inside. As soon as you hear the key in the door, you know that it's coming in, so you're kind of already on edge, always walking on edge around the house. So when I go to work, when I come to church, it's kind of, I can breathe. So I still kind of, God worked through me, but I was still not building that relationship with God. I guess it's after when the relationship kind of broke down, I was like, I need to draw close to God.
And then you kind of drew close. Was it kind of through this torment that you kind of got close to God?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
So tell us a little bit about that. How did you give your life to God properly, as you would?
I think it was in my room. It wasn't like at the front row or anything. It was in my room. I said, I just, like I said, I can't do this anymore. I have no strength. The relationship was over. He had moved out, but he was still abusing me. He was still finding ways of terrorizing me, abusing me. So I said, God, I need strength, because in the end, your mind starts playing tricks, as in, maybe you're better going back with him, because,
Yeah.
So I was like, God, you need to give me strength, because if I end up going back with this man, one day he will kill me.
Yeah.
One day he will kill me. So God just worked and said, okay, we have to do this properly.
Well, we're all kind of, so you kind of gave your life to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I've got two things on my mind. Is how did it finally end? How did you get out of it? I think we all want to know that, don't we? And there might be some people here tonight that kind of thinking, man, I'd like to get out of something. How did you finally get free?
It's hard, but I think the most important thing I did was break soul ties, because I think the soul tie kind of still made me kind of question whether or not I should go back. So clearly I saw, okay, I need to break that soul tie, because otherwise I will keep going back, and it will keep having a kind of a foot in, and knowing that, I can do something and she'll say yes. So I had to stand my grounds and just hold on to God. That's what I can say. I had to hold on to God.
So a lot of people in the room would know what you mean by soul ties, but for those of you who don't, is that like a belief that you just had to be with this person for your own security?
Yes,
I just break that.
They say some people may say, I've heard this said, it's better the devil you know.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of took it as in, maybe it's not that bad. So because of a lot of gaslighting, so I thought maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to kind of comply a bit more so that he won't get angry. And maybe if I do this, so there's a lot of maybes, but then it doesn't work that way, really and truly. So
you stood your ground, broke the soul ties. Did he move out or you move out?
No, at first I moved out and I had to call the police to get him out because that was my place. Then he moved out, but still in him moving out, because we then had to co-parent, he still made himself very much picking up, because I have my son with him, very much picking up this child, coming into my house and just sitting on my couch and not moving.
Okay.
So it was very difficult until I said, you can no longer enter the house. You need to pick him up at the door, and that's it. And for him, I think that was the first kind of I'm standing my ground, because I had never, because he could say boo, and I say, okay, that's fine. But at that moment, it was like, this is what I'm doing. And on the inside, I was shaking, but he kind of knew from my eyes that she means business. And I said, Paulette, and I kept having those internal kind of talks. I was like, Paulette, keep it that way. Keep it that way, keep it that way. And I had to kind of reassure myself that this is fine. You are all right, and you'll be fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think you're very brave.
And then he had to be arrested because he kind of,
I'm getting a bit emotional, so, because I am. So I think you're very brave.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think it's great that you're able to come to KT. How did the church help? Is there anybody in the church who kind of walked with you a little bit, or I don't know the story?
No. So throughout what I was going through, not a lot of people knew.
Right.
I didn't share that with my parents until the very end. I tried sharing it at church, but I think, you try to not share too much, so you want people to get the hint. But I don't think the person I was sharing it with kind of got the hint. And I'm like, then I don't know where to turn to. So I kind of did the journey with God. In the healing journey was with God, until God was like, okay, you need to start speaking, because that's part of your journey, that's part of your healing. You need to start speaking, and you need to start seeking help.
Right.
So I have a few friends in church with whom I've shared my story, my journey, prayed with me, prayed for me when I couldn't even lift up my hands. So, yes.
Because that's what it's about, isn't it? That we can't share with everybody, but we're just those few who will travel with you.
Yes. Yes.
What a brave lady, everyone. And I know how do you feel now?
I feel great. I feel great, and I kind of remember, there's a verse, I can't remember what it is, but it's found in 2 Corinthians where it says, that everything we go through, God goes through it with us in order for us to comfort others.
Yeah.
And this is actually what God is doing in my life. And I just look back and I thank God, because I said maybe I wouldn't have been who I am today if I hadn't gone through it. Not to say that we all have to go through, kind of see this situation, but I probably wouldn't be talking here. I probably wouldn't be doing what I do with regards to domestic, helping survivors and victims.
So you do that?
Yes, I do that. I volunteer as well, yes.
That's fantastic. And Paulette works with our young people as well. And so, what's that song? I'm a survivor. Come on, Janice, give it some. If anybody here would like to know Paulette's story and some of the issues, you can buy her book called Behind the Smile. We're going to sell it on the bookstall at the end, and I'm sure she would love to chat with you and so on. Canon J. John, what about that? It's quite dramatic, isn't it? God bless you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Why don't we all stand just for a moment? I need a breather anyway.